Okay, another little talk here because we're getting close on time. A couple of things came up this week. First was we were driving. We were at an intersection, and I was at the front, and it was a green light, but I saw these two vehicles coming towards me, and so I was turning left, and so I had to wait. Right, I didn't want to cut in front of these vehicles and get hit. And all of a sudden, the guy behind me started blaring on the horn, like just okay. Oh, right. And there I noticed it. It was actually a green arrow. I wasn't focused on the arrow. I was focusing on the vehicles coming towards me. I didn't realize I had the right of way. I ended up causing this guy to, lose probably 15 seconds of his life sitting behind me at these lights. And so I finally went. And because it was a beautiful day, I had all the windows down in the van, and I pulled into my lane into the next street, and he came up alongside. Right, like he let me have it. He let me have it. He was, you can imagine what he said. A couple of 4-letter words in there. He was really angry. He was really, really angry. And again, maybe 15 seconds, but probably not even that long, but maybe 15 seconds. It was pretty stunning. It was a stunning collection of curse words, all arranged in a nice little package. But that got me thinking about anger. And then I caught this video. Jon Stewart on The Daily Show. He was talking about outrage. And he was talking in particular about the hypocrisy of guys like Sean Hannity and the outrage, how outraged they are at everything that goes on, and how outraged they are at this and how outraged they are at that. And, Joe Biden wore off-color socks and how outraged he is over something like that. And he was just using Sean Hannity as an example, but it was like a lot of these different pundits. I don't want to call them journalists. They're not journalists. But these different pundits and these different sharers of opinion and the outrage that they feel about so much. Now, he went off and talked about other things, but I got stuck in this idea of outrage. and how prevalent it is. And it's not just on the right side of things. It's not just Republicans or conservatives. It's everywhere. Like everybody seems to be outraged. Everybody seems to be outraged all the time. It's like, it strikes me that it's becoming our default mode. It's becoming our default mode. That something happens, I go from 0 to outrage in 4 seconds. That's where I need to be. That's where I'm supposed to be. Now, I know some people will say, well, anger is necessary. And anger is necessary at times. It's necessary at times. Stress is also necessary. It's a very rare thing that somebody says, hey, you had a good, healthy bout of stress today. Stress is necessary for a human. But it's not something we're supposed to experience all the time. Stress helps us get through really, really awful moments. Stress can help us get through some really, really hairy situations. But then we're supposed to let it go. It's not supposed to be with us every day. It's not supposed to be our natural state it's not supposed to be our normal state of being. Well, outrage is not supposed to be our normal reaction. It's not supposed to be how we react to every situation. I remember watching Roadhouse. Remember the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze and Sam? What's his last name? Sam. Well, forget his last name. Anyway, I was watching Roadhouse about this. They call him a cooler. He ran a bar, and he was a great fighter. And he was, it's Patrick Swayze when Swayze was doing his action movies. Anyway, there's this scene where where Swayze's talking to all the staff, and he's talking to his bouncers. He says, I've got your back, you got my back, and you've got each other's back. And, you're the bouncers, I'm the cooler, and you take your instructions from me. And he says, but the one rule, he says, is be nice, right? So somebody calls you a name, be nice. Somebody pours a drink on you, be nice. Somebody does this or something does that, be nice. And so his guys are like, well, what if they do this? Just be nice. You might have to escort them to the door, but be nice as you escort them to the door. You might have to help them to their car, but be nice as you help them to their car. You might have to make them stop drinking, but be nice as you help them, whatever the case is. But when, he says, the idea is you be nice until it's time not to be nice. And they said, and how will we know that? I'll tell you. There's a passage in the book of James. We've talked about this passage before. It's a very, very common one. Verse 19. Everybody seems to know verse 19. So it's James chapter 1, verses 19 and 20. Excuse the typo there. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Again, most people have heard this. Slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Listen, observe, pay attention. Don't say anything. Just keep it to yourself. You don't have to say anything right away. You don't have to say anything anyway. Ever. Just shh. Be slow to speak. Be thoughtful. Be thoughtful and considerate before you open your mouth. And be slow to anger. Don't react. Respond. Don't react. Respond. You react to something and it's instantaneous. A response takes some time. Again, it takes some thought and it takes some consideration. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. And then verse 20, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. When we get outraged, we talk too quickly. We stop listening, right? We stop listening completely. We talk too quickly and we react. Outrage leads us to reactions. It leads us to do things that maybe aren't the smartest things. When we're in that place of outrage, parts of our brains will shut down. We'll stop thinking clearly. We'll definitely stop thinking strategically. We will think about the moment and not far beyond the moment. And we will do what we think is best in that moment. But again, we're not thinking deeply. It's the animal, the lizard brain is right now. We need to take care of this right now. I've heard people tell me that anger is important when it comes to change. Outrage is important when it can fuel our work to bring change. I think, and maybe it's just as I'm getting older, I'm finding myself in disagreement with that a little bit. It's one thing for us to say, hey, I disapprove of this. Right? I don't like this. It's something to say, I'm disappointed in this. It's something to say, there's a better way. There's a safer way. There's a more loving way. There's a more, that we it's okay for us to say there's a deficiency here. And that change needs to happen. None of that requires outrage. None of that requires us to fall victim to anger. We can have those opinions and we can work for that change without outrage being the fuel. It comes back like stress. I can do all kinds of work. I can do many things. I can do lots of things. I can achieve lots. Stress doesn't have to be the fuel. And because when stress is the fuel, ulcers follow. Heart attacks follow. right? Blood pressure rises. When stress is your fuel in life, our bodies don't last very long. And it's the same when it comes to things like outrage, when it comes to an emotion like outrage. Now, Patrick Swayze talks about being nice. I'm not saying we have to be nice. I'm just saying we don't have to give in to anger. We don't have to give up our control to that reaction. Another thing that popped into my brain as I was listening to Jon Stewart and as I listened to that guy curse me out on the on the street. God, if you're outraged at everything, are you ever truly outraged? Right? There's a saying, if everything is urgent, nothing is. If you're outraged at everything, are you outraged at anything? Geez, and who can tell the difference? Can the world tell the difference? Can you tell the difference? There's a lot of things out there in the world that we aren't happy with. There's a lot of bad things happening. There's a lot of inadequate things happening. There's a lot of deficiency out there. There's a lot of room for change and for growth. There's a lot of need for change and growth. A lot. And we can recognize that. And we can put our efforts into being agents and catalysts for the needed change and growth. For sure. For sure. But save your outrage for the right moments. Again, I'm not saying you should never be angry. It's natural. I'm not saying you should never be outraged. It's natural. But it should be wisely applied. You are the catalyst and the agent of change and growth. Not anger about something, not outrage about something. You. It's your hands that will do the work. It's your feet that will do the walking. It's your brain that will do the processing and the planning. Make it your love. Let your love be the thing that fuels you, that moves you forward, that motivates you. Your love for people, your love for community, your love for the individual. Let that be the thing that pushes you forward. It's healthier than anger and rage. It's more sustainable than anger or rage. And ultimately, it's the thing you want to pass on to the next generation. Amen.